Okay, we are finally in the finale of our fruit still life. So today I do plan to finish this tutorial, and I'm just going to work on finding some of those darkest darks, finish that up, give this a little bit more definition, and also start smoothing out some of these areas where you can still see the paper grain. So when I'm looking at the book, you don't see a lot of paper grain showing through. So that's going to be my main focus for today. And I'm going to try to bring this to a conclusion for you so you can see the finished product. So I'm going to start up here because I had extended this shadow area here in my last tutorial. So now I'm going to need to extend that wall portion out a bit. So I'm going to get started with darkening up a little bit of this. So during the break, I had redrawn in this drape area here just to go over that dark area. I noticed that needed a redraw, so I made that adjustment. So I'm going to go ahead with that darkest dark and then work up to the lights. So I've got some burnt sienna, or rather burnt umber, excuse me. So burnt umber, and I might need to add some of that dark green and dark blue to that mixture. Just move this over a little bit more so you can, really see it. Bring that all the way to the edge. Dark green. And I'm looking to where there's a bit of a value shift right here. Things get a little bit lighter, so I'm mindful of that. A little bit of dark blue. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing up my own black rather than reaching for the black pastel, which is like the easy way out. Oops. I got some pastel where I didn't want it. So you can just try to re-smooth that down. Well, I'm also seeing a lighter value here. So going a bit of creamy white, maybe a little bit of the pure white here, just to create a little more contrast right there on that edge. Maybe a little bit of light blue, maybe it softens out a little. Okay, so I'm going to address this again. I'm going to check that value. Actually, no. Let me just finish up this dark. I'm going to finish up that dark black. So I'm going to finish that up, and then I will get into the drape. So I'm trying to keep, moving forward with my piece. And I might leave a few marks that are like unblended, a little bit of broken color. Just changing this up, making this a little more red with some burnt sienna in the shadow. We're just changing the value and the color a little bit. More reddish in value. Here we go. So maybe I'll try to smooth that transition a little bit more. Try to fill in some of that paper grain, soften those edges, and get this really dark value back here. And maybe some of this could come up here. It doesn't have to be all the same height. So some more burnt sienna. Okay, so back to that cloth. I do want to get this value lighter than I have it at the moment. So I'm going back over with a little bit of that creamy white color. I'm going to look for the brightest light areas that I can. It's a little bit cooler maybe in some areas. So I'm looking for that too. Okay, so this goes all the way up there. We've got shadow area here. So I'm going to define that just a little bit more. So just going to redraw in that shape just a little. Try to add in some more white here where I see it, so we've got more contrast. A little bit of dark green in that real dark area, a little bit of black. Maybe, let's see. So I'm just going to check my drawing a little bit. Just going to bring this together. Looks like it's all part of the same fold. Maybe I'll bring some green into that a little bit. Tone down that pink a little bit. I'll look for the value shift. It's like a bluish white. Then I'll just correct that. I'm going to lighten this up. Just going to correct the drawing a little bit here. And looks like there's a little bit of an orange-y reflected light. Not sure where that's coming from, so just adding a little bit of that. And I'm just bouncing back and forth between my reference and my drawing. Again, looking for those lights. Trying to find those. So, go back into that dark. I feel like it needs a little more definition here. So we're just going to define that dark area with some more black. I'll give it another rub. And get that real dark and filled in. So maybe it's got a bit of a gradient there. Then I'll do the same over here with those darks. And keep looking for when there is a value shift. So it's a little bit lighter, over in this corner. So I'm adding some more white to indicate that. And these might not be as light since there are objects in front of them. I'm also going to add in some more rubbing up here. Try to get that a little bit more filled in. But you could leave, a few areas where maybe you don't do that everywhere, just to keep it interesting. So I'm going to move over here, and I've extended the background up to the edge of the paper, just for a little bit of a better composition. I'll move it out of the way. So this is what it looked like before, and then this is after the blending. And I'm just going to try to get rid of, anything that has like too much of an outline feel to it. So to get that background color, I did some red, some white, a little bit of this creamy white, just regular white, and I noticed over in this corner here there's a little bit more blue. There's some deeper values of this light blue, so I'm going to go ahead and add that very softly just over to this left-hand corner. So right over here, I'll give it a little more pressure just to get a darker value. Then I'll gradually just, lighten up a little. Maybe bring that out. And then I also see, that color over here. So it's a little bit more subtle. So I'm adding more of this color to this corner very softly. I do see that. I'll keep blending in these areas. That maybe need a little more of that. And then I also noticed that in the book, the shadows in the bowl get really dark. So I'm going to add some black to those really dark shadows in here. Started it a little bit here, but I'll move over to this area and just darken up these negative space shadows. So those are the shadows in between the pieces of fruit that are in the bowl. So those get pretty dark in comparison to, say, that value. And they look pretty dense, so I'll give it a bit of a rub in to eliminate. See, that was before and here's after. Eliminate some of that paper grain. Another dark I noticed here in the book is this Bartlett pear. So I think I'll go back in with some burnt sienna. I'll try to make up my own black. Maybe some blue. Try to make a darker violet. I need a really dark blue to get this in the value I want. So I've got dark blue, I had a lighter blue, some burnt sienna that didn't do much. So if you really have to, sometimes you do have to reach for that black just to get your value as dark as you want it. But I would do that last, as much as you can. I would try not to resort to that right away. Black can be a very strong color, can flatten things if you use too much of it. So I'm going to go back in and just introduce a little bit of that red again, just so the shadows aren't too overpowering. Add a little, so I just laid some red over top of these dark areas. Maybe a little bit more of that green. This is like a light green right there. And I'm also going to put in some softer shadows here. Says in the fruit, maybe like over here, there's some yellow ochre with mixtures of white that are a little bit softer as compared to the straight on white. So that's a way to make your shadows a little, your highlights a little bit softer. Add a little bit of yellow ochre and then a little bit of the white. I'm going to do that in a few spots here. So doing that now to the orange, I just put some yellow ochre down and just added some white on top of it. So it's not quite so strong as like this area. This is a really bright highlight, maybe the top of that pear. So let's see if there's maybe some other places I could do that. Maybe I'll go over here with that yellow ochre and then add a little white for a softer highlight, perhaps. Maybe we'll do that here up in the pear.